Chapter 1. The First Signs. Mark had always prided himself on being a good husband. He worked hard to provide for his family, and he loved his wife, Clara, with all his heart. But lately, something felt off. Clara, who had always been warm and affectionate, had become distant. She spent more time on her phone, often disappearing into another room to take calls. When Mark asked her about it, she would brush him off with a vague excuse. "It's just work, Mark," she would say. "You know how busy things have been." Mark wanted to believe her, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He tried to push his doubts aside, telling himself that he was being paranoid. But then, one evening, he found the receipt. It was tucked inside Clara's purse, which she had left on the kitchen counter. Mark wasn't the type to snoop, but something compelled him to look. The receipt was from a luxury hotel downtown, dated just a few days ago. The total was over $500, and it included charges for room service and a bottle of champagne. Mark's heart sank. Clara had told him she was at a work conference that day. He stared at the receipt, his mind racing. Was she cheating on him? The thought made him feel sick, but he couldn't ignore the evidence in front of him. Chapter 2. The Confrontation. That night, Mark waited until the kids were asleep before confronting Clara. He placed the receipt on the kitchen table and sat down, his hands trembling. "Clara, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady but laced with tension. Clara looked up from her phone, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she noticed the receipt. "What's this?" she asked, though Mark could tell she already knew. "I found this in your purse," Mark said, his eyes locked on hers. "You told me you were at a work conference that day. So why do you have a receipt for a hotel stay?" Clara hesitated, her face flushing with guilt. "Mark, it's not what you think," she said quickly. I must have picked up the wrong receipt. You know how messy my purse is." Mark shook his head, his frustration boiling over. "Don't lie to me, Clara. I'm not stupid. What's really going on?" Clara looked away, her silence speaking volumes. Mark felt a lump form in his throat. He had always trusted Clara completely, but now, that trust was shattered. Chapter 3. The Investigation. Unable to let go of his suspicions, Mark decided to hire a private investigator. He needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Linda, promised to get to the bottom of things. Within a week, Linda had uncovered enough evidence to confirm Mark's worst fears. Clara had been having an affair with a man named Victor. The two had been meeting regularly at hotels and even took a weekend trip together. Linda provided Mark with photos, receipts, and detailed reports of their meetings. Mark felt like his world was crumbling around him. He had always believed that his marriage was built on trust and love, but now, he realized it was all a lie. He spent hours staring at the photos, trying to make sense of it all. Who was Victor, and why had Clara chosen to betray him? Chapter 4. The Dark Secret. Determined to uncover the full truth, Mark dug deeper into Victor's background. What he discovered left him speechless. Victor wasn't just a random man, he was Clara's ex-boyfriend from college. The two had been in a serious relationship before Clara met Mark, and they had even had a child together. Mark felt like he had been punched in the gut. Clara had never mentioned any of this. She had always told him that he was her first and only love. But now, he realized that her entire life with him had been built on lies. He confronted Clara again, this time with the full weight of his discoveries. "How could you keep this from me?" he demanded, his voice shaking with anger and hurt. "You had a child with him, Clara, a child, and you never thought to tell me." Clara broke down in tears, her guilt and shame finally catching up to her. "I'm so sorry, Mark," she sobbed. "I never meant to hurt you. I was young and scared, and I thought I could leave that part of my life behind. But then Victor came back into my life, and I made a terrible mistake." Chapter 5. The Fallout. Mark was torn. Part of him wanted to forgive Clara, to try to salvage their marriage for the sake of their children. But another part of him couldn't get past the betrayal. How could he ever trust her again? They decided to separate. at least for a while. Mark moved into a small apartment, while Clara stayed in the family home with the kids. The separation was painful for everyone, especially their children, who couldn't understand why their parents were suddenly living apart. Mark tried to focus on rebuilding his life, but the pain of Clara's betrayal lingered. He couldn't stop thinking about the lies, the secrets, and the life she had hidden from him. He wondered if he would ever be able to forgive her or if their marriage was beyond repair. Chapter 6: The Resolution. Months passed, and Mark and Clara began to tentatively reconnect. They started attending couples therapy, working through their issues one session at a time. It wasn't easy, but they were both committed to trying. Clara apologized repeatedly, expressing her regret and her desire to make things right. "I love you, Mark," she said during one particularly emotional session. "I know I messed up, but I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Mark wanted to believe her, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. He knew that rebuilding their relationship would take time, patience, and a lot of hard work. But for the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. The story ends with Mark and Clara taking small steps toward healing, but the future of their marriage remains uncertain. They had been through hell, but they were still standing. And for now, that was enough. Themes explored: the devastating impact of betrayal and secrets in a relationship, the complexity of forgiveness and the challenges of rebuilding trust, the emotional toll of infidelity on both partners and their children, the importance of communication and honesty in a marriage.